Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome to our
Hey,
masterclass
hey.
tonight. I'm going
Mhm.
to go ahead and we're going to get started. One second. If everybody could, if you're okay with it, go ahead and mute your screen so that way we hear everything that Sam is going to tell us today that we're very excited about. As we go along, if you have questions, feel free to pop them over into the chat and then she's going to cover them. So go ahead and stay muted, put your questions over there, and you're going to have the most excellent time. And I would love to introduce you all, if you don't know yet, to Jessica Fredrickson. She's on the Encore Board of Directors, and she's going to tell you all about this masterclass and what you're going to experience tonight.
Thanks, Kat. Hi, everyone. Well, thank you everyone for joining. I am your host this evening, while Marianne is enjoying the Danube cruise. If you don't know me, I am Jessica Fredrickson. I am the Senior Director of Brain Health at Goodwin Living, and I am a board member of Encore. I also co-chair the research committee. That's a new position for me, but I've been on that committee for a while. And I am so excited to share with you our speaker tonight,
Yeah.
Samantha Murray. She is board certified music therapist. She'll introduce herself in more detail, but she's going to talk to us about brain health and music and the arts, and it'll be a really informative talk. With that, Sam, feel free to share your screen and take it away.
Sure.
I'll be monitoring the chat for any questions, and we should have plenty of time for questions at the end as well.
Get all set up. All right. Thanks so much for joining me tonight, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and talk about something that's near and dear to my own heart. So today we're going to talk a little bit of everything: music, creativity, brain health, overall well-being, all of those good things. So like Jess mentioned, I'm a board certified music therapist. I'm also a certified Alzheimer's disease and dementia care trainer and certified dementia practitioner. So I work with Jessica at the with Goodwin Living Brain Health team, and I manage our social model day program for folks with early to moderate cognitive impairment. So I have started out my career working in senior living. It's a passion of mine. As a music therapist, I first started out working in a skilled nursing facility and then kind of worked my way into working with older adults and then specifically older adults with cognitive impairment and end of life. It's been a really lovely career journey so far, and I'm so happy to share some of the things I've learned along the way, some research that I find really inspiring, and some good tools for you to take away from this evening. So before we start, I just want us to take a minute. We're going to dive into the science in a minute, but I really want to think about a personal reflection. So take a moment, think about a song, artistic experience, a creative activity, something that's been meaningful to you. So it could be something that is connected to a really important time in your life, a really important person, something that makes you feel empowered. I would love to just take a moment. Feel free to share it in the chat or just write it down to yourself. We'd love to hear about some meaningful music in your life. And Jess, if you want to read some of them out, if we get any in, that'd be great.
I will. I think people are typing. Someone put, I had a great audition today.
Ooh.
Let's see, we got some other answers in the chat. The Amen from Messiah. It was my husband's favorite piece of music, and singing it gives me great joy since he has passed. When I hear songs from the 60s and 70s, I go right back to those times and feel young again. About 1976, I had a long commute and got my first tape player in my car, played Helen Reddy's I Am Woman over and over again.
Nice.
Someone else put art classes, helped me through a divorce. When I was a child, singing with my mom while she played the guitar. I think that's all we've got so far.
Lovely. Well, thank you so much for sharing. I love the breadth and width of the kinds of music and the meaningfulness to you, whether it's connected to a person or a special time in your life. We're going to talk about a little bit what makes music so special.
Oh, we just got one last one.
Oh, go ahead.
I want to, oh, we got a few. Okay.
Okay.
Sorry, they're so sweet. I want to
No,
share
I
them.
love it.
My father, someone put, my father used to sing me classical orchestra music, substituting words about how much he loved me.
Oh,
Someone else said, bridge over troubled water gave me comfort. Someone else said, I wrote several songs. The first time I ever wrote a song, writing these songs and singing with Encore Rocks have helped me deal with my husband's death. When I left my job to care for my dad 10 years ago, there were times I missed participation in choral opportunities, but through his illness, he could sing, and I loved that. Um, I started singing in high school, and at age 80, it is my drug of choice.
yeah.
Love that. Listening to oldies music, remember all the lyrics, and happily sing along, and sharing a playlist of songs from our childhood with my 84-year-old sister.
I love that. How wonderful. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing. So, as we reflect on some of these memories and experiences, it's worth thinking about, why is music so often at the center of these really meaningful moments in our lives? So, to answer that question, we're going to take a step back a little bit and think about the role that music plays throughout our life, um, and from before we're even born all the way through every stage of life and aging process. So we're really musical species. Humans are really have a really specific connection to musicality, unlike any other creature on Earth. Um, and this starts from before we're even born. So I'm sure you've heard of those baby Beethoven CDs and playing music for your baby. But that's kind of where our connection to music begins. So even before we're born, we're regularly exposed to sound, music, rhythm, melody, things like that. And our relationship to music grows over time. So, as a young child, we might learn our really basic ABCs through singing a song. We learn really important life lessons through nursery rhymes and singing. And then that continues throughout our life. So, we know that music from our adolescence, sometime between 15 and 25, is the music that really stays with us the longest. It's called the reminiscence bump. So if you think back, a few of those answers we got in the chats, they talking about the 60s and the 70s and feeling young, those are the songs that kind of stick with you in your early career or maybe as a teenager. Those are the things that tend to stick with us the most. Music continues going through our life, and it really helps us develop who we are as people. So, as early adolescents, we're figuring out who we are, what's important to us, what are we going to do for our careers, and who are we going to spend our time with. So, it's really connected to core parts of who we are. It's also really connected to memory and emotion. So we know that listening to familiar music activates different neural networks in our brain, and this is also why for a lot of music therapists, there's debate over should you listen to something soothing, should you listen to something upbeat, but research shows that it's all about the music that's important to that person specifically because it's all about that emotional connection to them. Musical memories are really unique, similar to smell. the way that memories are stored in our brain, music just tends to stick to them a little bit. So you might, hear a song for the first time in a long time and the lyrics come right back to you. Or maybe you hear the jingle from a favorite TV show and you remember watching it. Even as other memories get harder to retrieve, musical memories just tend to stick a little bit more. This is why we often use music a lot during, when we're providing care or whenever we're connecting with folks with cognitive impairment. It's because music tends to stay with us the longest, and those musical memories kind of help to bring back that recollection. And of course, music remains meaningful through the end of life. So a lot of people find music soothing or a way to connect with their loved ones, can provide comfort, emotional support, spiritual support, and connect with people that they care about. And we can talk a little bit about that more later as well. So, our lifelong relationship with music really reflects something important about the brain itself, and why things are processed in the way that they are. So, the same brain that forms memories through music in childhood and young adulthood remains capable of learning, adapting, and responding to meaningful experiences throughout life. So, we're going to talk a little bit about the aging brain, and what that can look like for us and how we can use music. So, a lot of people, when they think of getting older, they just think of decline. But some brain changes are normal to aging. We'll talk about some changes that are not so normal, but some changes can happen. Things can become less efficient. We might take a little bit longer to process things. But even though change can be normal, doesn't mean that we're incapable of learning or adapting. It's really interesting to learn that the brain really is so adaptable throughout our entire life, through our whole age lifespan. So this is through something called neuroplasticity that we'll talk about a little bit later. But the brain continues to build and strengthen connections throughout our whole entire life. So the old saying of you can't teach an old dog new tricks is just not true. We're never too old to stop learning. So just a nice bit of positive information for us. And then that practice kind of strengthens those connections. So trying something once is great, helps create those new synapses. And then the more we practice, the more it strengthens them. Just like we strengthen a muscle, we might do some stronger weights or we might do it a few more extra times. But we really want to use those neural pathways regularly to reduce them kind of being snipped away. So our brains do something really interesting called synaptic pruning, which it tries to become more and more efficient as we get older. So it'll just snip away little parts that they think we don't need anymore. So it's really important to keep trying new things and keep doing things that we really enjoy. In the same way that if you haven't written by hand for a while, it might be a little bit, you might be a little bit, wobbly. The brain, we want to make sure we strengthen those synaptic connections and make sure we tell the brain that we really want to keep those things strong and they're important to us. So, like I mentioned, when we're talking about the brain and aging brain, we really want to make sure we are aware of what is normal and what is abnormal aging. So many people worry that memory loss is a sign of dementia. But like I mentioned, some of it is just normal with age. We might take a little longer to recall information, process new material, or find the right word. They might be frustrating, these changes, but they don't necessarily indicate disease. So knowing the difference is really important to us. So some normal changes associated with aging, maybe occasionally forgetting things, but remembering them later. Slower processing speed, taking a little bit more time to process things, or needing, extra reminders or notes. That's normal and can happen to anyone, but something just to be aware of. There might be changes that may warrant further evaluation. So maybe not being able to recall recently learned information or short-term memory. Difficulty managing your familiar tasks, things that you've always been able to do that seem to get difficult or more difficult. And of course, becoming lost, significant changes in judgment, things like that. We really just want to make sure that we are aware of these changes in ourselves and we are able to make changes to our lifestyle or get the help that we need. So this is always just something I preface with. It's really important for us to keep track of our own cognition and well-being so that we can make positive changes for our well-being. We'll talk about that a little later. So Alzheimer's disease and other dementias are not a normal type part of aging. Age is the greatest known risk factor, but a lot of people don't develop it. So it's just good to know your own brain. So one of the most encouraging things we've learned about the brain is that it remains capable of learning and adapting throughout life. It can continue to form new connections, even for folks with cognitive impairment. It is still possible to learn new things. So the next question becomes sort of what kinds of experiences help to support that process? What helps us learn new things or make new connections? Few activities engage the brain as wholly as music does, which is why researchers have become increasingly interested in understanding how music affects the brain. We know that it's really powerful, but figuring out why and how is so important for continued funding and education and promoting the arts across everywhere. So, music is a whole brain experience. I think some people may have heard that, if you're right-brained, you're artistic, and if you're left-brained, you're logical. But that is not the case for music. Music is processed on both hemispheres of the brain. We don't have one specific place that processes music. It really engages different parts of the brain and both hemispheres. Different parts of the brain can work together. So that's kind of, we can work on perception and memory, meaning making while we're still working on the visual aspects. It's so wonderful. We get to, it really taps different parts of our brain. I'll show you a diagram in a moment that kind of shows that. Like I mentioned earlier, humans are really specially equipped to be wired for music. So we can recognize rhythm, identify melodies, perceive emotion in sound. These are things that other species cannot do. So, for example, humans can hear happy birthday in multiple different keys and still understand that it's the same song. But some other creatures, like songbirds, you could play the same song in multiple different keys, but they wouldn't necessarily recognize it as the same melody. So humans are just really specifically wired for this, which is so interesting. There's a great neuroscientist and musician who I reference a lot. His name's Daniel Levitin. And he thinks that, music and musicality is a fundamental human capacity. Most people are musical in some way, even if they don't identify as themselves as musicians. So even things as simple as gait, being able to walk on an even pattern is a bit of musicality and something that we can use music to help for folks with Parkinson's or other gait disorders. Things as simple as just coordination and body movement, tapping our toes along to a song doesn't take a great musician, but still is a part of musicality as a human trait. And then finally, musical ability is not an all or nothing skill. It's not you are musical or you are not. It all exists on a spectrum, and there's different aspects of musicality that some may be better in than others. So some people might be very good at composition and might be able to visually process information and create a beautiful symphony in their head, while others might be really skilled in playing expressively or expressing themselves through their music and having that kind of emotional connection to the music. I think there's maybe a few musicians who are skilled in everything, but unfortunately, that's probably not the most of us. But musicality exists on a spectrum, and we can all be good at different aspects of it and still be musical people. So like I mentioned, music is really connected to the brain in every single aspect. So probably the first one that people come up with automatically is auditory processing. We think that it just goes in the ear and through the brain. That is the first stop on the track, but it's not the only stop. So auditory processing helps us not only hear, but interpret what we're hearing. So it's the same reason why we can listen to a tune on the tuba and on the piccolo and understand it to be the same melody, but on different instruments. Can also help us hear melody, harmony, pitch, timbre, and rhythm, although rhythm can help us with our motor systems as well. So, music can activate regions involved in movement. So, if you've ever noticed yourself tapping your toe or tapping your hands automatically, that's our motor system reacting to music in kind of an automatic way. But it also helps us synchronize our actions. For anyone who's a pianist or a guitarist like myself, you know that you have to do two different things with two different hands at the same time. And that is a very complex motor skill that takes multiple parts of the brain. Our somatosensory systems, this can cause some, physical sensations. So if you've ever listened to a really beautiful piece of music and got goosebumps, or felt a sense of relaxation or calm when you heard a really familiar, meaningful song, that could be it. It also can be really helpful when we talk about using music as a tool for our well-being, using that somatosensory system to use music to help promote relaxation or body awareness, things like that. Visual processing, again, we talk about a little bit. Sometimes it's the obvious, reading the sheet music or reading the lyrics, but it also can really be connected to mental imagery. So if you hear a song, if you're listening to Vivaldi's Four Seasons and you imagine the seasons based off of what the music sounds like, or if you have an image of where a song might be played, you hear a Jimmy Buffett song and you imagine the beach. It can, help with that visual mental imagery, and shapes our perception of what the music sounds like, or we think of the music based off of what we might visualize. Of course, we'll talk about our emotional systems. It can help with reward networks. If you do really well on an audition, it can really help build your self-esteem. It can connect to your reward network. So in the same way as when you eat a really good piece of chocolate, if you hear a really good song, it might light up the same kind of reward centers of our brain. It can also really help with motivation. I know me, when it's time to clean my house, I put on a really good motivating song to help me get off the couch and get going. And it can also really help with stress regulation, which we'll talk about using a little bit later. And then memory and identity we'll talk about as well. A lot of us mentioned in the very beginning different parts of our lives and how music was connected to them, whether because of a spouse or a loved one, a parent, a time where you were spending time at work, things like that. Music is really connected to who we are as people. So here is an image of our brain. It really shows how widespread music processing is throughout the brain. So different regions are working together all at once. So of course, music is not isolated to hearing. So you think about the auditory cortex in the back, but all of these different systems are connected and they really promote that whole brain engagement. And really, that's what makes music such a powerful therapeutic and wellness tool. There's very little things that light up our brain all together in those ways. So I'll share some of them in case you can't read the tiny print. So our sensory cortex processes tactile feedback. So maybe when we're playing a shaker and we can feel the beans moving inside, we can process that sensory information. Our amygdala is what handles our memories and emotional experiences to music, along with the hippocampus. The corpus callosum, this is really interesting. So they've done a lot of research and they've shown that when they do fMRI scans of musicians versus non-musicians, your corpus callosum actually gains white matter. So it grows to accommodate your extra neurons, sort of. It grows to accommodate that cross-brain thinking in a way that other things do not. Your cerebellum is what helps regulate rhythm and timing. So, like I mentioned, for folks who are experiencing Parkinson's or TBI or other sorts of neurological conditions, we can use music and rhythm to help kind of regulate our gait and regulate our processing of beat and rhythm. And then, of course, our prefrontal cortex, we think about a lot whenever we're doing puzzle solving or reading, writing, things like that. It is a part of our brain that helps us solve problems. And music is such an interesting problem to solve. So figuring out how to do the fingerings on the piano in the right order, or figuring out, when do I come in this song? What is the starting point and what is the ending point? That is also really highlighted whenever we're playing, listening, or engaging with music. Need to go. So music and neuroplasticity. We talked about this briefly. I mentioned it. So neuroplasticity is the brain's ability to strengthen, create, and reorganize our neural connections in response to experiencing and learning. So learning music provides an excellent example of neuroplasticity in action. So when we learn a new skill, the brain creates and strengthens those neural connections. So Daniel Levitin, who I mentioned earlier, the neuroscientist, has a great quote. So when we're learning new things, like maybe learning how to play a new instrument, we're generating those synapses. And when we rehearse it, then we're strengthening those synapses. There's been a lot of really great studies out recently about the cognitive benefits of music and on our neural plasticity. They did a study really interestingly of in older adults who were learning how to play a new instrument. And after just 10 weeks of training, they had improvements in their verbal memory. So maybe not what we would be thinking of, but it is engaging our brain and getting our prefrontal cortex working. We're thinking, we're problem solving when we're learning something new. And that helps our overall well-being and brain health. They've also, like I mentioned, noticed that there's structural differences in the brains of musicians versus non-musicians. So, like I mentioned, you never stop learning and your brain never stops changing. And being a musician might strengthen different parts of your brain that maybe non-musicians don't have. So it's kind of an encouraging bit of research to maybe encourage you to try something new, sing a new song, try a new instrument, because it's good for our brain. And I think I mentioned earlier as well, learning doesn't stop even if you have some sort of cognitive impairment. I was lucky enough to work with Encore's Melody Makers groups that we run at Goodwin Living Bailey's Crossroads. And they did a study with GMU and saw that over time, even folks living in our memory care neighborhoods who had cognitive impairment were able to learn new songs. So in our Melody Makers group, they spend the whole semester learning one new song. It's a song they've never heard before. And it's really just a great encouragement to see that learning is still possible all throughout our lives, even with cognitive impairment. So this whole brain engagement, getting everything kind of engaged and active, really helps explain why music is such a powerful tool. Why is the tool of choice for music therapists and other professionals? So music connects us to our own emotions, we talked about. So these are things that are really personal to us. So it might encourage us a little bit more if we are working on maybe our gait or we want to listen to something that encourages us. Having that emotional connection can help provide motivation or encouragement or emotional meaning. So if you're working on something with a music therapist, picking music that's really meaningful to you can help with that encouragement and meaningfulness. Music can also trigger really vivid memories for some. You might hear a song you haven't heard forever, and then it takes you right back to, whenever you were younger, or it takes you back to your wedding day when you hear your wedding song. But music can be a really wonderful trigger for that. Musical memories, like I mentioned earlier, can remain accessible even when other memories become difficult to retrieve. So if you hear a song, if I asked you to write down the lyrics of a song, I can almost guarantee that you might sing or hum the tune in your head, because writing out the lyrics is a lot more challenging whenever you don't have that sort of mnemonic tool to go along with it. And that is kind of how our memories are encoded with our music in the brain. Um, And then, of course, music can reach people when words alone cannot. There's a saying, music is the universal language. We can feel the meaning or emotion behind a song without being able to understand the lyrics, or we can understand, what the song is trying to get us to do by the way that it is formatted. So we might not know what the song is saying, or it might be an instrumental piece. But if it feels really upbeat and it has a strong tempo, we can understand that that is meant to get us up and going or um, connect to us in that way. And that is very unique to music. To be able to communicate without words is so, so unique. So we're going to talk a little bit about music and mood and our emotional resilience. So, we talked a lot about how music affects the brain, but I think most of us experience music emotionally first before we experience it intellectually. When we first hear a song, a lot of us might have a gut feeling about it. We might really like it or we might really dislike it. And then we start thinking about why that might be. So we turn to music for a lot of things, maybe without even understanding it intellectually. We have an emotional connection. So maybe that's when we're celebrating, if we're feeling grief, if we're relaxing, if we're exercising, worshiping, or connecting with other people. We turn to music for emotionality first before the intellectual side. There's been a lot of research that shows that music can really influence emotional regulation. It can influence our stress response and our overall well-being. And this is really important to us throughout our whole life, but especially as we age when life might be bringing more transitions and changes. So, could be retirement, caregiving responsibilities, health challenges, changes in social roles or loss. Music can really be a great tool to help us process those emotions and connect with other people. I know I hear a lot of folks whenever I'm talking to folks in our choirs that say, I haven't sung in so long, but this is a great way to connect with my community. And that is such a great thing to hear that people are turning to music, even if you weren't a lifelong musician. So we know that brain health and emotional health are really closely connected. Stress, anxiety, depression, and social isolation can affect cognitive functioning, and social isolation can be a high risk factor for developing dementia as well. So music can really be a valuable tool in helping us regulate our emotions and have mental well-being. We can use music to reduce stress, to improve our mood, provide comfort, or support self-expression. So, music is often something that people turn to naturally during challenging times, and really can be a powerful tool when used correctly. So, music as a tool. Um, Music, just like anything, can be used well or or not so well. I'll tell you a little bit about something that we use as music therapists called the ISO principle. So whenever we are starting out as music therapists, they teach us this in a way to help us understand what is the role of music and how can it help us attain our goals. So as a music therapist, sometimes our goals are physical, sometimes they are emotional in nature. But no matter what it is, we use the ISO principle. So this, in the terms of emotional regulation, we start with music that matches your current mood or your energy level or your emotional state. This is so important because if you're feeling really down, you're having a rough day, and someone comes in and sings you a really upbeat song, some people might respond well to that, others maybe not. You want to feel reflected in the music that you heard, not like it's kind of dragging you to a place where you're not ready to be yet. So we start with where you are. A good example is if you're feeling kind of low, maybe we start with a slower song, something that the lyrics talk about how you're feeling. You're maybe feeling down, or you want to sing a song about it being a rainy season in life. And that's a good place to start. We want you to feel heard and understood. And then we want to slowly change. Maybe our goal is to help someone um, come out into the community and become a little less socially isolated, or for someone to feel less anxious. So then we would slowly, gradually change to maybe a slightly more fast song, but still kind of matching the tune or tone. And then we want to get to a point where we are leaving you where the goal is. So if we want you to feel inspired and ready to take on the day, that's going to be our last song for the session, somewhere that we can start where you are and then use music to gradually get you where you want to be. This is possible, music therapists use this a lot, but this is possible for personal use as well. So if you find that you're having a rough day and you don't want that to continue, you can definitely do that. So start out with a song that or a type of music that reflects your mood currently, and then slowly maybe change it after a song or two once you feel ready to continue on. And that can be a really great way to use music as a tool. And I think I don't mention it, but I think I do want to say too, music can be a great tool and it can have some harmful effects if we use it as a tool for rumination. So if we're already really having a rough time, sometimes using music that is sad or is causing us to be upset continuously, can have some negative effects on us. So we want to be really mindful that we're not using music as a way of ruminating or getting stuck in one specific emotional state. We want to make sure that it's uplifting us and making us feel as though we are heard and valued and able to get to where we want to be in the future. So music as self-expression is also a really great tool. Um, Creating music is a great outlet for emotions that might be difficult to express with words. So we might not be able to say how we're feeling, but maybe we could play it out loud, or just play it for ourselves or hum a little tune, whatever works best for you in that moment. So for some folks, that's singing, just improvising, songwriting, drumming can be a really great way to express ourselves without a set, agenda. I love a good drum circle where you can just play whatever rhythm comes to your heart and just express yourself without any judgment or set, rhythm or agenda. And a lot of these tools can really be helpful and meaningful during life transitions, loneliness, periods of personal growth. Music can really just be a really powerful tool for all different types of and times in your life.
And before you go to the next slide, we had
Go
some
ahead,
questions and I think some answers in the chat.
please go
What
ahead.
does ISO stand for, or where does the word ISO come from?
So I believe that ISO is from, I might have to look this one up actually. I always understood it to be that you're isolating certain emotion and then moving on. But that's a great question. I'll have to do some research on that.
All right.
I love a good etymology question. Thank you.
Yes. Someone did put in the chat, it was maybe derived from the Greek word iso, meaning equal,
Hmm,
which that kind of gets at what you're saying with the you're matching. It's equal
yeah,
to the music is equal to the emotion. I don't know. Cool.
I don't
Thanks.
know either.
We'll get
Oh,
back to you all
oh,
with more
yes,
details.
I will look that up. That's a great question. Thank you. Okay. Well, we talked a lot about music, and I feel like I don't want our other creative arts to feel left out. Music is a really powerful tool for well-being, but it's just one part of a larger story of creative arts and well-being. So we're going to broaden our focus a little bit and see how creativity and the arts in general can really help support healthy aging. So, there's been a lot of great research on creative aging that shows that participation in the arts can really help support our well-being across multiple domains, similar to music. So, we can use arts in our emotional well-being, like we do with music. We could use it in our social well-being, getting out and participating in an art class or joining a photography club, acting in a play. All of those great things can help with our social well-being. Same thing with our spiritual, our physical. Some of them lend itself more to others. So maybe if we're doing some dance or movement, that lends itself more to our physical well-being, and maybe if we're singing in a choir at church, that lends itself more to our spiritual well-being, our social. So there's room for all modalities. Everyday creative activities like visual art, writing, storytelling can really help people remain engaged and resilient and connected as they age. So it doesn't have to be just music. If you find that music is not your forte, that is okay. As long as you're expressing yourself or finding an outlet that's creative, you can still have all those wonderful, powerful benefits of creative well-being. Um, and the goal is not for the skill or talent. We're not trying to become the best in the world, best in our field. It's all about meaningful engagement, and the process of being creative. So we talk about this a little bit in art therapy. I'm very lucky to work with some really wonderful art therapists, and I've supervised quite a few art therapy students over the years. And they really talk about with art therapy, it's the focus on the emotional expression, not the quality of the final product. It's all about the process. And I think that could be said with all creative endeavors. Just putting yourself out there and trying new things, trying to sing a new song, trying to learn a new instrument. It's all about the process, and the brain healthy and other healthy benefits to those endeavors more than the outcome itself. So within art therapy, they use the expressive therapies continuum to sort of look at how we express and how we engage with different arts in multiple ways. So they look at maybe the kinesthetic or sensory aspect of art or creative expression. So that might be the touch or the texture. So thinking about if you're playing a guitar, what do the frets feel like? What does the wood feel like? Or if you're creating art, what do the brushes feel like in your hand? What's the texture of the paper? Our perceptual and affective experience with the art is how we express our emotions and our personal experiences to things. Our cognitive side is organizing our thoughts, problem solving, storytelling, making meaning behind these artistic expressions. So a song, is only so good if it has no emotion or meaning behind it, that kind of thing. And then our creative integration. So how do we connect these things into a cohesive whole? How do you connect emotion and our insight into the technical aspects of the arts? How do we connect our self-expression with our problem solving? All of those things all together. So I would love to hear if it's not music, or even if it is music, if you want to write in the chat, how are some little ways that you express yourself creatively each day? Could be a doodle on the side of your notebook paper, could be humming in the shower. Any and all creative expression is worthwhile. Yes, do you mind sharing again?
Yeah, I'll give everyone a minute to type before I share. I don't see anything yet, but please type in the chat. Oh, here we go. We got one. We got a few. Oh, okay. Cooking. That was going to be mine too.
Ooh,
I love cooking.
yeah,
Uh, Someone else said I still write letters the old-fashioned way.
very
Writing
nice.
about incidents from my past, singing in the
Mhm.
car. That's a
Mhm.
good one. I sing in the car too. Oh, someone else
Good.
said I sing in the car and read aloud to a friend.
Nice.
A poem a day is a play-by-play.
Ooh, I like
Like
it.
that. That's a rhyme too.
Yeah.
Drawing, journaling. Let's see if there's some more. Dancing, another cooking, play guitar, preparing music for
Mhm.
weekend masses, doing word games, making up songs in the morning shower about what I will be doing that day.
Ooh, I
I
like
love
that.
that. That's a fun one.
That is a fun one.
Quilting or gardening while listening to
Ooh,
music.
very
I
nice.
love that. That's double creative.
Yeah.
Crossword.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah, those are some great creative
Very
outlets.
cool. Yeah, wonderful creative outlets. That's so fun.
I
I
like
love
those. I'm
that.
gonna have to borrow some of those. Add them
Yeah,
into
and
my own daily routine.
yes, I know. I love that idea of connecting too as well. So we're singing about what we're gonna do today. We're gonna listen to music while we garden. What a beautiful way to express
Yes.
ourselves. Yeah. Thanks for
Someone,
sharing.
last two I'll say,
Yeah.
is talking to the first person I see, stranger or no. I
Ooh.
like that one. And then, oh, make a bouquet of native cut flowers.
Mhm.
Someone said song parodies, pencil sketching, and singing an encore.
Oh, lovely. Perfect. All right. Thanks for sharing. It's always nice to hear how people express themselves. All right, so we're going to bring it back to music just a little bit. Of course, can't be the music therapist and not wrap it up with music. We're going to talk about, the social connection, and this is true with all forms of art. But one of the most powerful aspects of music specifically, it's its ability to bring people together. So we've spent a lot of time today about, discussing what music does inside of the brain, but music is really profoundly social. Even if you're listening to music, it's music that other people have created, and that in a way is a passing of information, is social by nature. So human connection is really one of the strongest predictors of well-being as we age. So a lot of great research talking about social isolation and the importance of having a strong community around us as we get older. Music really provides unique opportunities for social connection that seem to be kind of natural. So maybe we sing in church, or maybe we're all singing to the same song in the car as we drive to work. Who knows? But it really provides us an opportunity to connect socially. Choir participation has been associated with improved mood, reduced loneliness, and enhanced well-being. So I'm sure if we're part of an encore choir, we all know that already anecdotally, but research really backs it up. And then, of course, there's some physical aspects to singing together as well that are really interesting. So music can cause some physiological co-regulation. So when people sing together, their breathing naturally begins to synchronize. This is the same with our heart rates, and really can help provide that sense of connection and social engagement. This is something that's super unique to music. It can also be called physiological entrainment. This is something that I've used as a music therapist. I previously worked in a skilled nursing facility working with folks who were um, on a ventilator unit, and we use music to help regulate our heart rate and our respiration rate. And this is something that just happens really naturally when we're singing together. Our bodies regulate together, and it really creates this beautiful moment that helps us feel safe and connected with one another. So we talked about a lot about how music and the arts affect the brain, our mood, our memory, and our social connection. But I think all of it comes back to really how music connects to our meaning, identity, and purpose. So music is often the soundtrack of our lives. If we go back to the very beginning, we think about the music we listen to in the car, or the TV show, song that plays whenever we're relaxing or cooking dinner, the song we danced to on our wedding night, or a nursery rhyme that we taught our children. It really becomes the soundtrack to our life. And those songs can immediately bring us back to where we were in that moment, and they help to tell the story of who we are. Um, so the arts also provide opportunities for purpose and growth. So music can be the tool to making sure that we stay socially connected and we engage our brains. Even if, brain exercises are really important for us, maybe music is our way to do that if we're not a crossword person. So it can be a really great tool. So music really is special in that way. We know that having purpose and meaning in our life is associated with having a greater satisfaction with our life, greater well-being, and music really helps with that specifically. So we know creativity does not disappear with age. It continues to evolve throughout our life, just like our music tastes do. Maybe the music from our 20s sticks with us the most, but I would guess that's probably not the same kind of music that we listen to now. And it evolves just like we evolve as people, but it still remains really important to us. There's a really great quote from the Gerontological Society of America. This is their motto. The goal is not simply to add years to life, but life to years. So using music and creative arts to find that meaning, identity, and purpose in our life is a really wonderful venture. So the research is really compelling. I hope you learned something new. But perhaps the most really important question is, what can we do with all of this information? Where do we go from here? So I have just a few practical strategies or some ideas for how to get started if you want to incorporate more creative engagement in your life, use music to its fullest potential, and go from there. So my first suggestion is to engage mindfully with music. If you take a moment to think about all the times we hear music in our day. Maybe it's the elevator, maybe it's the jingle behind our radio show, or the commercial that comes on before our show. There's a lot of sound, and a lot of it our brain processes without even thinking. But we have a great opportunity to be really mindful and purposeful with our intake of music. So if we're trying to create a moment of engagement and connection, take a moment, listen to music with intention. Maybe notice how it affects your mood. Maybe there's a song that you really love, but you didn't realize it was making you feel really amped up. So maybe we won't listen to that before bed. Think about kind of how music affects us. And you might notice different things about the music you never noticed before. I know sometimes I'll be singing a song with some of my participants and I'll think, is that really the word? I had no idea. Things that we just kind of gloss over with time. And some ways we can do this, we can create some playlists that support specific goals like relaxation, focus, motivation. So if you know you have some really great music that helps you clean, or some really relaxing music that helps you sleep, creating playlists on things like Spotify or YouTube can be a really great way to mindfully use music and be purposeful about what we put on rather than maybe just putting on our same album that we always listen to. Another option is to create a musical life review. So we talked about how music is the soundtrack to our life. We can take a moment and write down all of those songs that you recall from special times in your life. Maybe share it with a loved one or a family member who would be interested in knowing what songs are really important to you. You can make your own soundtrack or record with all of your important songs. It can help you kind of consider, how has your life progressed? How has your taste or your interest changed over time? It's really interesting to think back on who we were in different parts of our life, and I think our music taste often reflects that change. And then just using music to be a tool for presence and mindfulness, and helping us to feel really, supported and regulated, and help with our emotional resilience. My next recommendation is to strengthen your brain through creative exploration. So we talked about our neuroplasticity and how important it is to try new things. So maybe the next time you go to play your instrument or sing, you try and learn a new song, or try to learn a song that you already know the tune to in another language. The internet's a wonderful place where you can get translations for things, or you can learn new songs from different places. I know when I was becoming a music therapist, I had a very interesting challenge, which was to learn new songs from multiple different cultures, because being a music therapist, I've run into many different people with different backgrounds, and that has been very helpful to me, being able to learn things, and challenge my brain. Embrace the learning process. So when you're learning that song or you're trying something new, it probably won't sound good the first time, but just embrace the process and try and challenge yourself, because that challenge is really good for your brain. We know that really supporting that lifelong learning is such a positive impact on our well-being. And then the last one is just share those creative experiences with others. So whether you're part of a choir, an art class, a book club, a dance group, anything like that, joining a creative community can really be a great way to connect. Shared creative experiences really help our overall well-being. It helps us feel like we belong and have a greater sense of self-worth, which can have a really positive impact. So just a few practical strategies to take with you. The opportunities are really limitless. So all of those great creative engagement strategies that you mentioned earlier, cooking and reading, can be adapted to this. So this might be a great place to start, but I'm sure there are many, many great ideas out there. So if there's one message I'd like you to take away, is just that creativity and music is not a luxury. It's really a powerful resource for our health if we take care of it and use it properly. It can really help with our resilience, our connection, and our meaning, our self-worth through life. The invitation for you all is really simple. Try to just listen with intention, create with curiosity, and connect through creativity. Thank you so much for being here today.
Well, thanks, Sam. That was so much great information. Um, I see lots of thumbs up and thank yous in the chat. Would love to see if anyone has any questions for Sam. You can put them in the chat and I'll read them out. Or if you want to unmute and ask a question, you can do that as well. I'm seeing lots of thank you and inspiring people trying new things. I love
Yay.
that. Oh, Michael had a question. He
Ooh.
said, music can be purely instrumental or involve lyrics. Lyrics can be real words or nonsense syllables like jazz, scat. Do these two different types of music impact the brain differently?
Ooh, that's a great question. I think that they probably connect to different parts of the brain in some ways. So when we're thinking about words, that kind of goes more towards our maybe our prefrontal cortex, or when we're thinking about the meaning behind those words. So a word is not just a word, maybe it helps us visualize. If we're singing about a bird, it connects to that visual connection as well. Scat improvisation is a totally different, not totally different. It uses a lot of the same parts of the brain with rhythm and musicality and problem solving, I think would probably be really highlighted with that. You're trying to process. I know whenever I've sang jazz, you have to process what the band is doing behind you, understand the chord progression so that you know that you're singing in the right direction. So I know that they probably have a lot of the same connections, but I could imagine each one of them definitely probably highlights certain parts of the brain more strongly.
Jessica, I saw in there that there was a question for Sam about the presentation for this class. So this is going to be recorded and it's going to be put on the Masterclass page for everybody to see, whether you're registered or not. The question about the actual presentation is more for Sam, though, because it is her personal property. And so if you want to share it, we can include it in the description of the video so people can have the link. And if they are going to watch the recording and see it that way, that's also an option.
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to share it. And I have on the end of my presentation as well, all of my resources and research linked. There was a lot of really great books that I love. The number one I have to shout out, it has like a lot of my information. It's called Music and Mind. It's a collection of research and essays by different neuroscientists and musicians, all collected by Renee Fleming. Wonderful resource. So that's a great one, and I'm happy to share my slides.
I do have a
Thanks, Sam.
question, and it's not really
Sure.
about art. It's about something that I heard on Instagram. But somebody said that if you are right-handed and you brush your teeth with your left hand, it builds pathways. Is that true, or did somebody make that up?
That's true. Jess, I bet you know about this too.
Yes, it is true. It is very true. You can, sometimes there's a word for it, and I am blanking on the specific word, but it's true. It does. I'm left-handed, and so there are definitely things. So I do the opposite sometimes. I'll try to do things with my right hand. And it kind of goes back to what Sam was talking about with the corpus callosum, which is the part of our brain, it's the middle part of our brain, and it's how the different sides of our brain talk to each other. And so when we do things with our non-dominant hand, it helps the different sides of our brain talk to each other, which can grow our brain and grow new connections. So it's a great thing to do, especially because it improves our neuroplasticity, which if you've ever, like I have, sprained my ankle a couple times, and you always have to learn how to do something a little different if you have an injury or something like that. So having good neuroplasticity can definitely help when we get into those situations where we have to adapt.
I have a question. Uh, One of the things I like to do is, Comcast cable has these music channels, and you can put on the 60s, the 70s, the jazz, the uh, classical, all kinds of different things, and then I just leave it on during the day while I'm doing work and so on. Is that doing me any good? I mean, a lot of times I'll be singing along with whatever's on there.
Yeah, I don't see how it could hurt. I think the only thing that I could think of that would maybe be a negative is if it's, if you're really trying to focus hard. I know for me, if I'm trying to focus hard on something like writing, if I'm listening to a song with lyrics, sometimes the double processing is challenging for me. So if it starts to cause you stress, certainly turn it off. But having background music to hum along, especially if it matches the mood or what you're trying to do, if you're singing along while you're doing your dishes, definitely not a bad thing.
How about just laying on the couch listening to music? Does that I mean, you said many times engaging in music. That doesn't sound very engaging. So I didn't
I
know if
think there's room for both. I think
uh-huh.
that if you tried to make every time you listen to music really mindful, that could get really, tiresome, or
Yeah.
you would start to get kind of frustrated with it. So I think there's room for both. In the same way that sometimes we watch TV just to relax, and sometimes we watch it, maybe a good documentary to learn about something. I think music is the same. We can just listen to it for enjoyment. But if we're trying to get a specific goal out of it, it's that mindfulness and that purposeful thought that's important. So both is good.
Okay, thanks.
Someone typed in the chat, wonderful flow and being together for this program added to its content. Paul Simon speaks about a period of his heightened creativity that would surprise him as he awoke and wondered where the lyrics came from. A reminder to me to keep a pencil on the nightstand.
I love that. You never know when inspiration will strike. Yeah, it's a personal interest of mine to learn about famous musicians and their sort of process. I know Daniel Levitin writes a lot in his books. He's interviewed quite a few musicians. He was a music producer early in his career. He said a lot of them, none of them said it's easy and that it just kind of comes to them. They all say that it takes some work and some effort. And they all have different processes, but it's interesting to hear how different people come up with their creative flow.
Absolutely. Lori said she listens to classical music. Someone else said hot club listening sessions are popping up throughout the US. Um, oh, someone
Oh, I
asked,
see. Yes.
yeah, you want to answer that? What do you think it will take to get the mainstream medical model to accept this, insurance coverage, etc.?
That is a great question. And I think there's a few things. Number one, I think, is research. Music therapy and music has always been seen as kind of a soft science. Everyone knows that it's impactful, but it's been challenging to get some real data. A lot of that comes from funding, we know. It's hard to fund things that maybe would, music therapy has been shown to cut down on the need for pharmaceutical use. So it's hard to get funding for things, especially the arts. But I'm encouraged. There's a lot of interest for sure right now. The Renee Fleming's part with the National Institute on Aging, they have a program called Sound and Health through the NIH that they've been trying to fund different research for music-based interventions for well-being. I can say music therapy specifically is covered by insurance in some states. So Virginia, specifically where I am, just gained licensure for board certified music therapists. Some states have this requirement and some do not. We do have a nationwide certification, so I'm a nationwide board certified music therapist. But different states, Medicare and Medicaid, have different requirements for licensure in order to get reimbursed. So where I practiced previously in North Carolina, we could bill for insurance. So It's possible. I think it's on the up and coming. I always encourage people to advocate for music, talk about it, write letters to your representatives about how important it is for this to be, recognized as a health profession.
Absolutely. And then there was a question about the book you showed. Could you show that book and share that book
Yes,
title again?
I've got a few. Let me grab my other one.
Okay.
Okay, so this is called Music and Mind. There we go. This is by Renee Fleming, or it's collected by Renee Fleming, but it is a great resource. Different authors and musicians alike have been writing about this. And then another book. This is a great one. There's two that I really like by Daniel Levitin. This one is called I Heard There Was a Secret Chord, Music and Medicine. And then the other one is called This Is Your Brain on Music. And he goes a little bit in depth as a neuroscientist about the different parts of your brain and how they get engaged by music. Both very great writers.
Amazing. And I saw there was a comment twice in the chat. Karaoke singing encourages social activity together among strangers. So
I
I
love
think
that.
that's an interesting fact. And since she put
Yes,
it twice, I wanted to make sure I shared
I love
it.
it. A great encouragement for us to go out and do karaoke. I'm down.
What other questions? Any other questions?
Yes, it's called I Heard There Was a Secret Chord. That's one of them. Yeah.
Who's the author to that one, Sam?
Daniel Levitin. So it's his last name is Levitin. And
And did you have a third?
yes, the third book was called This Is Your Brain on Music.
And that was Daniel as well.
Yes. I've got a favorite neuroscientist, if you can tell. I don't know that many people do.
No, but I think it's fun that you do. Well, great.
Well, I just want to say thank you, Samantha, for this. This was beautiful. And you share everything with a smile the whole time and just with joy and like a peaceful spirit. And that was, we all have busy days, and that was a beautiful way to end the day. And I felt the same way. I saw a bunch of people mention in there that they felt inspired to go out and try something new.
Yay.
And it inspired me as well. So thank you. Thank you for taking
Great.
the time to share your knowledge with us. Jessica, thank you for moderating in such a beautiful way. We're very lucky to have you on the board. So this
Absolutely. Thank you.
this is going to be recorded and it'll be posted within a week up on the Masterclass page. And feel free to share that page with anybody and everybody. These classes are not just for encore singers, they are for your next door neighbor, they are for your friends. So this is a beautiful free opportunity to people. So invite them, make sure you check out what's coming up next so you don't miss anything. And yeah, we'll get this recording up and look forward to what's coming next.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a
Thank
great
you.
night.